Welcome to the Vol Bros. My name is Evan. This is my brother Rustin, and we are two Vol Bros who are actually bros in real life. And man, it feels like the Vol Bros season now because it's football time in Tennessee. The Vols are on the field. Uh, well, they're not in shells even yet, but they are on the field tomorrow or Saturday. They're in shells. They have a day off tomorrow. We are pumped up, baby. Tennessee plays football this month. It is August the 1st. Tennessee's first game is the last day of this month. So we can officially now say that Tennessee plays football this month. And Elijah, welcome, buddy. Good to have you. He said that too. He said the Vols play football this month. Absolutely. That is very exciting. It is football time in Tennessee. Wes, welcome. Good to have you, buddy. He said, go Big Orange. Absolutely. 100%. So, Rustin, very simple topic tonight. We've had a media day. We've had 2 days of practice. We have gotten to see people take the podium. We've gotten to see a lot of true freshmen being interviewed in the pressers, which honestly really surprises me that they've had that many true freshmen already being interviewed. Shows that they trust them, shows that they're putting them out there. And I respect that. Have you heard anything? I mean, we'll talk about stuff on the field, that kind of stuff. Obviously, the big highlight of fall camp in the first 2 days was Nico's pass to Chris Brazel, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But of the interviews and of the coaches' pressers and stuff like that, already got to hear Heupel twice, Coach Banks once, Coach Halsey once, and today was I can never say Ablin. I can't say his name correctly.
Alec Ablin.
Ablin. No, I said it right. How about that? So have you heard anything from them or any of the players that intrigues you so far?
Well, July 22nd, so about 10 days ago, UT put out their height and weights from the end of camp. And the one that jumped off the page, well, really two jumped off the page to me. Nico added 9 pounds of muscle. That was very needed, and it's very visible. You can see it. He is significantly thicker. But the one that really jumped off the page, Chaz Nimrod added 24 pounds.
Yeah.
In one semester. Okay, that is obscene. Human beings don't add that much weight that fast. And then today, in his post-practice press conference, Josh Heupel spent a lot of time raving about Chaz Nimrod and talking about how he's in year 3. He understands the system better than anybody. He's done more than everybody else. He's worked harder than everybody else. He's done all the things he needed to do to be great. Like, Heupel did not stop talking about him. And what I heard was a coach who was basically subtly telling everybody else, don't expect to see Braylon Staley and Mike Matthews this year. Like, they got a guy who has stepped to the front, and with the ones who were expected to start, Brazel, Squirrel White, Brew McCoy, he's essentially saying Chaz Nimrod's right there with him, and they have 4 starters. That stood out to me more than anything.
Well, people hear that and they might be like, oh man, I wanted to see those guys play. And I mean, everybody does. But if there's people on the team who are playing better than them, that just speaks volumes of the depth that Tennessee has actually built. That's really good. That is very good. Speaking of people being huge, Bennett Warren. He is currently 6'7", 342 pounds. That is a large fella. That is a large fella. When he was one of the freshmen today that got a presser after the practice. I mean, yesterday, 3 true freshmen. It was Carson Gentle, Jordan Ross, okay, Tony, welcome, Tony. Good to have you. He just mentioned this too. He said Jordan Ross doesn't look like a freshman. the way he handled himself in the presser was also not freshman like. So was Carson Gentle. Neither one of them. Peyton Lewis today talked not like a freshman. They had great answers. They were well thought out. They were um, demonstrating a clear understanding of. It was impressive that they knew their own limitations already. They knew what they didn't know. You know what I'm saying? Like they could tell you, I didn't know this. And like, okay, Peyton Lewis today, he said, I'm sitting in the room. Dylan Sampson always sits beside me. And he's been able to help me break it down to where I can understand what they're talking about. And, we got to do this and then that. And he said it's step by step. And I get it after that point. Like he understood the things that he already needs to be working on, both in off the field and on the field, like in the meeting room. Oh, so that's what they're saying. Okay, that kind of stuff. I mean, like that's impressive. They're showing maturity beyond their years, and that's a great sign if you're a Vols fan. And so, like you said, yeah, we might not see Mike Matthews and Braylon Staley on the field a whole lot this year, but that's a good thing because that means that there's probably 6 dudes playing better than them. So that's a good thing if you're a Vols fan. Some of the other questions or comments that came through, and then I'll answer my own question that I gave to you. Elijah said Jordan Ross already looks like a SEC football player. So excited for his future. Absolutely, 100%. Wes said, "Do you guys think we land Faison Brandon?" Yes, and
Yep.
apparently a lot of national analysts do as well. Is that August 3rd? Is that when that is? It's sometime.
That
It's August 3rd.
sounds right.
Y'all can let us know in the comments. I think that's August 3rd, which would be what? Sunday? What's today? Today's Thursday, right? Yeah, because we're live. So it'd be Saturday. So if it's August 3rd, then it'll be this Saturday when he announces. Yeah, Elijah said,
Yep.
Saturday. Yeah.
It's Saturday.
Let's see here. Ricky, do you guys think we land Brandon Stewart?
Is he coming back to be a grad assistant?
Yeah. My understanding is that James Banks is going to be committing to Tennessee, and we're going to reenact the Hail Mary at halftime at the Swamp next season. That's the goal. Sam said that Faison is committing Saturday at 3:00. Hey, appreciate that. Thank you very much. Let's see. Herb said, from the highlights, bigger, stronger, and faster, especially freshmen and underclassmen. Kudos and pay raised for the nutritionists and strength coaches. Yeah, and Brent Hubbs and Austin Price, which, I mean, let's be honest, no one knows the inside workings of that program other than, more so than the actual football team and coaching staff. No one knows it better than Austin Price and Brent Hubbs. And they were talking about it to that exact thing. And they said, man, the strength staff and the nutritionist staff deserve a lot of credit because these dudes, and they brought out, who was it? They mentioned, David Hobbs. That's who it was. They said that David Hobbs is currently weighs more than he did this spring, but he has less body fat than he did this spring. That's impressive.
Yep.
That's impressive. Let's see here.
They've also pointed out Gage Ginther quite a bit. He's come up a lot just in random conversations. Probably the 2 freshmen I'm hearing the most are Gage Ginther and Boo. When every time they interview a defensive player, Boo comes up at some point. He's clearly flashing, and I can't remember who it was yesterday. I've seen so many interviews. One of the defensive players yesterday made a comment. It was a defensive back. It was Andre Turrentine, who's competing with Boo. So it was really interesting coming from him. He made a comment that, Boo's going to be very visible. He will be playing a lot.
So Herb, you beat me to it, Herb. Well played, sir. Herb said, "Does Boo start at the star position?" Now, just in case people are watching or listening and they heard that, if you're not familiar with Tennessee's defense, because I know we have other people join from other fan bases, the star position is essentially the nickel position. And so the question is, does Boo start at the star position? So
I think Jordan Thomas has that locked up. Honestly, I think the question mark is it the other safety opposite Andre Turrentine? Is that why Turrentine was comfortable to talk about it, because he knows he's not competing with him anymore? I think Jordan Thomas proved that he is an SEC nickel. And, before he got hurt, he was playing as well as anybody on that defense. So, now that he's healthy again, I would fully expect that he's the star.
Ricky, just so you know, if you're still watching, out of curiosity, I wondered what old Brandon Stewart was doing nowadays. He started a marketing company, apparently. So there you go.
How's he going to do that and play at the same time?
Yeah, I don't know. That's a good question. Wes said, "What about David Sanders? Do we get him now?" If you're not familiar with David Sanders is a 5-star offensive tackle. I think he might actually be the top-rated offensive tackle in the country right now in high school. He has narrowed it down, and Tennessee is in his top schools. What do you think? Do you think we get him?
I think we've had him for a while. I think they've just been stringing this along to get the maximum bang for their buck out of the announcement. I think he's been in the fold. I think he's been one of those quiet commitments that's been in the fold for a couple of months now.
So I agree with you. I think we do get him. Whether or not he's a silent commitment, I don't know. It wouldn't surprise me, honestly. But like you said, I do think that he is going to be a Vol. I think when all it's said and done, I think Tennessee has certainly a top 7 class, maybe a top 5 class, and that's a good thing. It's a good thing, especially if you can combine it with a really strong transfer portal class. You're in business if you got that going. Wes made a good point. He said that a lot, Ohio State scares him a little bit for Sanders, and that is certainly the other competition. But or maybe he's talking about Faison Brandon. It'll be interesting to see what ends up happening with both of them. But personally, I think Tennessee does get both of them, and I only say that because national analysts are saying that. It's one thing for Tennessee guys to say, "Oh yeah, they're coming to Tennessee. Yeah, that's going to happen." It's a whole other thing when like Sam Wiltfong and all these people who are national analysts, when they're saying it, well, then you got something going there. Tony said, "Surely we'll be better at safety. McCullough is gone now." I think they will be better at safety. I really do. They have better athletes there.
I think we'll be more athletic, but it's unproven. I mean, if we started today, it would be Andre Turrentine, probably Jacoby Thomas, the transfer from Middle Tennessee State, and Boo Carter as the top 3 safeties. There's not a whole lot of SEC reps there. I mean, we don't really know what we've got. I think they're crazy athletic, but I don't think we know what we have there.
Yeah, that's a good point. So my question that I was going to ask, and everybody in the comments, you chime in and let us know what you think. It's simple, yes or no. I was going to make it easier, but I was like, no, I'm not going to do it. I'm make it harder. And then Herb kind of asked the exact question I was thinking of. Does Boo Carter start against UTC first game? That's the question. So Rustin says no. In the comments, y'all let us know your answer. Yes or no. Does Boo Carter start against UTC?
Well, hold on. Does punt returner count as starting?
Okay. Good question. I should have clarified. Does Boo Carter start in the defensive secondary against Tennessee? Because I do think he's going to be your return guy.
Yeah, I think he's the starting punt returner, but I don't see him starting on defense.
So that's the question. Do you think he starts on defense against UTC? So that let us know in the comments. Some people already saying Elijah said no, he didn't think so. Evan Myrick, welcome, Evan. Good to have you. He said no. Elijah said he will get a bit of playing time though, for sure, no doubt about that. I agree totally. He will, even if he doesn't start, you will see him in the first quarter, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So yeah, like third or fourth series, he's in the game. Like that's gonna happen if he doesn't start. Wes said he thinks he starts. I mean, he legit might. I mean, he's a good enough athlete.
I don't see it. Willie Martinez has always gone with veterans early.
Agreed.
You know, Wise Tank McCullough started for 3 years in a row.
Yep.
You know,
Right.
Andre Turrentine will absolutely be in one of those starting jobs. I think Jacoby Thomas will be the other one just because of age. I think the corners will be Jamad McCoy and Ricky Gibson. And then, like I said, I think Jordan Thomas has the star locked up. I don't foresee them. What's going to be fascinating is in all that, what do you do with Nico Slaughter? Like, where does he fit in? That's
a good question.
They've got some hard decisions to make.
Evan asked a good question. Evan said, "Does Boo last?" And I would assume that what Evan is talking about is off the field. Does Boo do what he needs to do to stay on the team and that kind of stuff? I think that what we've seen thus far is a good thing because you haven't heard about anything off the field with him yet, and that's a good thing. I think he's surrounded by enough people that are in his ear enough to let him know, like, dude, you have a professional career ahead of you if you just put your head down and work on it. And I think that's what he's doing. I hope that continues. But that's I understand where you're coming from.
I think I just said to Nico Slaughter. I meant John Slaughter.
The other Slaughter. Yeah, that's what Tony was saying too. Yep.
Yep.
Evan said if he can do the right things, he'll be okay. Absolutely. Sam said Boo will definitely play because there's questionable depth for sure. And Tony's saying he thinks Boo starts by midseason, and maybe so.
Honestly, I think if Boo starts by midseason, it's because he beats out Andre Turrentine. I really like Jacoby Thomas. I don't see him getting beat out, but Andre Turrentine's always been a big question mark.
Sam said we're strong and deep on the defensive line. Absolutely. The most so since the early 2000s. I mean, easily this is the deepest defensive line we've had since 20 years ago. He said the linebackers are more experienced in the secondary. Well, that's a great question. So the secondary, you got more talent back there. We just hadn't seen it on the field in the Tennessee uniform yet. You got a guy coming from MTSU. You got a guy coming from Oregon State. You got people coming in from all over the place. A guy from Temple University. You got, all these guys coming in, and other players who have been on Tennessee's roster just not playing yet. So I guess the best answer is it's just unproven. We don't know yet. We're hoping, that all these dudes coming in, transfers, will step right in and do what we hope they will. Look at Gabe Judy Lawley last year. He was probably the most sure defensive tackler in the secondary we had last year. He was a transfer from BYU. So hopefully you got guys coming in that, very highly sought after players in the transfer portal. So hopefully they're going to do what we need them to do. That's what we need. Tony said that Banks spoke well about Christian Charles in his press conference. Christian Charles is another name that you'll definitely will see in the back and secondary. He started some last year, so I think that's a name that we'll definitely see him. We're going to see all these dudes back there because especially against UTC, they're going to be like, okay, go earn it. Go here's the real deal. Go earn it. Oh, that's cool. April, welcome. April, good to have you. She said it'll be an exciting run. Definitely don't count John Slaughter out. Okay, so is there a familial relation here? Like, well, I mean, that's pretty cool. Um, I'm just curious.
I've been
That's
a
cool.
regardless of if she's related or not, I've been a big fan of John Slaughter since he got on campus. I think he's got a huge ceiling. I think right now, if they, I think right now, if they had to put a depth chart out there, like I say, I think it's probably McCoy, Jermod McCoy, and Ricky Gibson at the corners. It's Jordan Thomas at the star, Jacoby Thomas, and Turrentine at the safeties. But I think right there, breathing down their necks, is Boo at the star, John Slaughter and Christian Charles at the safeties, and those backup corners. I mean, Jalen McMurray didn't come here to sit. He was an all conference player at Temple, and you got Jordan Matthews. Um,
Yep.
there's some dudes at those corners. They could do a lot. And Christian Charles, he originally signed as a corner, so he could play both. There's a ton of depth back there, and they're all going to be fighting for reps. But I like John Slaughter. I like Boo Carter. It's going to be hard for those safeties to keep some of these guys behind them. Like they're gonna push.
So April, this is super cool. Welcome. We are glad you're with us. She said that John's her son. That is so cool. She said, thank you for the welcome. We have a bajillion questions for you. What's it like seeing your kid on the field in Tennessee Orange? What is it like tell us what it's really like behind the scenes in the locker room? Like, is what's portrayed in press conferences really representative of what's going on, that kind of stuff. So many questions, but we are very glad you're with us. That is so cool. Let's see some of the other comments that came through. Elijah said Turrentine looked good in the bowl game. He did have an interception in the bowl game. That's exactly right. Actually,
but come on. Are we really going to give the defense any credit in the bowl game? They were facing the worst offense in America, and they were facing a quarterback who couldn't throw the ball over 10 yards. I mean, this wasn't really a test.
He did have a solo tackle on the 1 yard line that prevented a touchdown. He did do that. Evan said, if Nico is the truth this year, Tennessee could be scary.
Yep.
You're right, Evan. And you're exactly right. And that's what we're waiting to see, honestly. That's a great question. JD Pickle released his predictions for the college football playoff this year. And he had Tennessee as the 11th seed at 10-2. Now, interestingly, his two teams that he had Tennessee losing to were Georgia and Alabama. And so he had Alabama as the 10 seed, Tennessee as the 11th seed. And he had 5 SEC teams getting into the playoff: Georgia, Texas, Alabama, Ole Miss, and Tennessee.
I hope that's true, but I would not want to be on that committee.
Also, interestingly, the 4 conference winners power conference winners get first round buys. His 4 conference winners were Georgia, which no surprise there. Oregon, I thought that was a interesting pick. First year in the Big Ten, he's picking them to win it. Miami, which very much surprised me, is that he's picking them to win the ACC.
Yeah,
and Utah was the other one for the Big 12. Which that's actually probably a pretty good pick.
Yeah, Utah doesn't have a whole lot of competition this year. They should win the Big 12.
Let's see here. Sam said, with the muscle Joshua Josephs was put on, it's going to be exciting. The pressure we're going to be able to generate. 100%. He said this should help the secondary. Totally agree. Opposing quarterbacks are going to hate playing Tennessee this year because we have so much depth on the defensive line, and we're going to have so much ability to get pressure on the quarterback. This is going to be a blast if you're a Tennessee fan watching the defense play this year. It's going to be so much fun. Tony said Jalen McMurray is already banged up at corner. Let's see. Herb said it's go time for Willie Martinez to get this secondary to perform. Yeah, I agree with that too. For sure. Moondrop Speedy said, I'm really excited about Jermon McCoy. His highlights at Oregon State are impressive. Yeah, kid's an athlete for sure. Totally agree. Welcome, Moondrop Speedy. Good to have you.
I think that's what
Mississippi.
I like. I think that's what I like most about the three guys we brought in the secondary: McCoy, McMurray, and Jacoby Thomas. All three of them have a toughness about them. We have some tough guys in the secondary, but I would not say it's thorough. I wouldn't say every guy in our secondary last year was, a bit of a butt kicker. You know, we brought some guys in between the transfers and the freshmen, and then the few that were remaining who return. We've got a different level of toughness in that secondary this year. It's going to look very different. You're going to see some competitors.
Mississippi Vol, welcome, buddy. He said, good evening, brothers. It's Thursday evening. The weekend is knocking on our door. Fall has started, and we get to see Tennessee football this month. Go Big Orange. Absolutely. Apparently tomorrow we're going to see some Saharan desert in the atmosphere. That happened a few years ago, and it's coming back. So that's pretty wild. He just mentioned the falls in the air, and so it got me thinking about the Saharan deserts in the air too. But yeah, I mean, this month it's this month. That's so exciting. Elijah said, "Hey man, a pick is a pick." Absolutely,
it is. But I mean, the competition does matter. I mean, Will Brooks 2 years ago, or I guess 2 seasons ago, Will Brooks led us in tackling in a game against Vanderbilt. He's a walk-on safety. Okay, sometimes the opponent matters.
John, welcome, John. Good to have you, buddy. He said, love this show. Hey, we appreciate that very much. He said, always watching on my hour plus drive the next day. Well, we appreciate that very, very much. We're glad you're with us for sure. Evan said, now this is interesting. Evan is an Alabama fan. And he said, I'm still iffy on Alabama this year. Well, I think that's fair. And I respect your honesty. I think that's a very good point. I mean, listen, Kalen DeBoer is a great football coach. There's no doubt about that.
With a really good staff.
Yeah. But he's still following the GOAT. I mean, like, ask Holly Warlick how it is to follow the GOAT. I mean, it's not easy.
Well, even this past year, I listen to Mac and Cube out of Birmingham almost every day. And when it looked like Bama was going 10-2, people were calling for Saban's firing. They were calling into the show and saying it's time to go. He's lost it. It's over. And it's like, man, when 10-2 gets you fired, the expectations may be a little unrealistic.
Yeah. And DeBoer's walking right into those expectations. Yeah. Evan said he thought that JD, which now I just saw Moondrop Speedy's comment. So apparently JD's last name is pronounced Pickale. Is that
Pickale. It's JD.
Yeah,
Pickale.
I didn't know that. I thought it was JD Pickle.
We were trying to get him a sponsorship with Wickles Pickles, but apparently it's not going to work.
So I appreciate that. Thank you very much. Now I know. What is it? Pickale?
JD Pickale.
Pickale. Okay, I got you. So I don't need to emphasize the P. All right, Pickale. I'm on it now. I'm on it. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. So Evan said that he thought Pickale's. See, I got it. He thought his Miami pick was a reach. I mean,
I agree with him. If Miami wins the ACC is going to be ready to fold like that.
Yeah,
that's a pretty low bar.
And I'm still iffy on Florida State as well. I know they got DJ Uyalungale back there at quarterback. How do you say that name? But we saw what he did at Clemson in the ACC, so I'm not totally sold on DJ yet. Sam said, Rustin, if you're not giving credit to the defense against Iowa, you must be giving extra credit to the offense.
Absolutely. The offense went out there against a top 10 defense and did whatever they wanted. But let's not confuse what happened. Like Iowa's offense was all-time awful. I mean, they could not have been much worse.
Tony said, I'm not sold on Turton yet. Maybe I'm wrong. He
I
said
agree.
secondary. He said secondary is not all our Martinez Banks coaches safeties.
I think of the two safeties, Andre Turrentine's probably feeling the pressure. Jacoby Thomas is a baller. He proved last year against Alabama he can play against anybody. I think Andre Turrentine, when he's looking around and going, Jordan Thomas is here, Boo Carter's here, John Slaughter's here, Christian Charles is here. Yeah, I better not make a mistake. I think he's got his head on a swivel.
Elijah said Will Brooks is just good like that. Don't be hating on him. I love it. Hey, he came in and held it down on that final. That was him against Alabama in the final drive, wasn't it?
When half the defense was injured, he went out there and played the whole fourth quarter and played well. I'm kind of amazed that they haven't given him a scholarship yet.
Elijah said Evan's struggling with some names today. I am. You're right. That's exactly right.
In a minute, we're going to do an Olympic update and give him the Samoan national team to do.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. Let's see here. Okay, you've asked the $1 million question. Herb said, "Who do you think starts on O-line?" So here's what I'm going to do. Before we answer this, I'm going to give my answer to my question that I asked Rustin earlier. Whoa, that was 30 minutes ago. Time flies when you're having fun, man. So earlier I asked Rustin, based on what we've heard from players and coaches, has anything been said that surprised you or that you thought was interesting, that kind of thing? And I guess it's a really good thing that there hasn't been anything. I mean, like in the past, you could be like, oh, this person said that. That seems, significant. There's been none of that. None of it. Today, Ablin said he had like a real moment. Like he was actually, so here's the thing. I know last year everybody was like really missing Alex Golish. Couldn't think of his name there for a second. Everybody was missing him last year because they thought he was the missing link on why the offense wasn't clicking it like it was the year before. The reason I missed Alex Golish last year was for his press conferences. He was so blatantly honest in his press conferences. It was hilarious. He would say things that the communication staff was like, "Oh, please don't say that. No, we're not supposed to." I mean, like, there was no such thing as coach speak with him when he was on the microphone, and it was fantastic. That's the kind of stuff I miss, because that's when you'd really find out stuff. Like, I can't remember who it was. It was a tight end 2 years ago. He came in, he was like, yeah, he's not going to play this year. He's going to redshirt. And I mean, like, he like first practice, he's like, he knows that he's going to redshirt. I mean, like, you don't say that to the media, but it was hilarious. He's like, he's got too many things to work on. He's going to redshirt. It was hilarious. Well, we don't have anybody like that anymore. The most real moment we've had was today with Ablin. He was talking about how, his first year on the recruiting trail, he was kind of down on himself because he was getting beat out by other coaches. And Brent Hubbs made a good point. He said, it was really because he hadn't had time to build relationships with people yet. Now that he has, you start seeing some really highly rated tight ends committing to Tennessee.
Mm-hmm.
And the only other kind of real moment we had was when Heupel joked around with, I don't know who the reporter was. If you know in the comments, let us know. But he asked a question like, with Nico, sometimes 5-star quarterbacks come in and they don't feel like they have to work as hard and that kind of stuff. He's like, what's it like having Nico who didn't take that approach and has grinded and worked and worked and worked? And he looked at the reporter and said, yeah, if you were rated a 5-star, we would have had to worry about that with you. And, kind of gave him a hard time and everybody laughed in the room. It was funny. And that was it. Like, that's the only, let your guard down moment that Heupel has had. The only thing that I've heard from the coaching staff that was really intriguing and what you want to hear was from Joey Halsley. And he was asked about Nico and his work ethic, like what is he doing off the field to get better, that kind of stuff. And so Halsley starts talking about Nico. And he said that after the Iowa game, and this is all I needed to hear. When I heard this, I was like, all right, he's going to be good to go. Evan Myrick earlier said if Nico's the truth, Tennessee's going to be scary. Evan, this is the quote that would make me think that Tennessee's going to be scary. Nico was the MVP of that bowl game, right? Is memory serving me correctly?
Yep.
Yeah, I thought so. He had 4 touchdowns. So I figured he was probably the MVP. So after being his first career start as a Tennessee Volunteer in a bowl game, and the bowl game in which he was the MVP, Halsley said that after that game, Nico felt like he left plays on the field that he could have played better. And as soon as the game was over, he said he wanted to watch the game film so he could go get better. That's all I needed to hear. True freshman at the time, starting in his first game ever in a bowl game against top 10 rated defense in the country. He goes for 4 touchdowns, wins the game MVP, and felt like he didn't play well enough and immediately wants to watch game film so he can go get better. Sign me up. Like, that's all I needed to hear, man. That's all I needed to hear. So, to answer Herb's question, who do you think starts on O-line? That's the $1 million question, and I think it is mildly concerning that Jeremiah Hurd has been moved from defensive line to offensive line. Well, I'm assuming that is for depth purposes. I think that Rust and I would both agree on 4 of the 5 easily. I think you're going to see Lance Hurd at left tackle, Cooper Mays at center, Javonte Spraggins at right guard, and John Campbell at right tackle. Rustin, would you agree with those 4?
Yep.
So really the only question is who's going to start at left guard? And there's probably 3 or 4 dudes that are battling that out right now. And I think if you were to even ask Austin Price and Brent Hubbs who's going to start at left guard, I think both of them would tell you that's the $1 million question. Nobody knows. So that the other 4 are set in stone. Like, you can take those to the bank. The one that's interesting is left guard. Who do you think it's going to end up being, Rustin, if you had to make a prediction?
Andre Carrick.
I'd say it's probably a pretty good guess. Sean said, hi, y'all. Good to have you, Sean. Welcome, buddy. Mississippi Vol said, I made a typo earlier. Fall camp started today is August 1st. I don't think fall is in the air quite yet. Maybe in September. Good point. Go ahead.
One thing about Jeremiah's Hurd, he's 6'8", 325 now. I don't think they moved him to the offensive line because of depth issues. A lot of people don't remember this about him. He went to Model High School in Georgia. He only played his junior and senior years. He never played football until 2 years ago. So when they were evaluating him, they just saw a massive kid who was actually a really good basketball player. So he had great feet. They saw a massive kid with great feet, and they were like, we don't know what he is, but he's a freaking house. So we need him. And so, he's continued to grow. And I mean, you just don't see a whole lot of 6'8", 320 defensive linemen. And I think as he's continued to grow, they're like, his feet are still good. This is an offensive tackle in the making. I mean, he's massive. So I think they moved him over because he's starting to kind of formulate as far as, okay, this is what we truly think he is. But there wasn't a whole lot of film of him to watch in high school to even have a clue of what he could be. I think they're still figuring it out.
Sam said it's going to be interesting to see Alabama transition from a defensive-minded coach to an offensive one. Yep. It's going to be interesting to watch that whole season unfold down there. My Moondrop Speedy said Miami ain't winning the ACC. I would tend to agree with that, actually.
Yeah.
I think Clemson's in the driver's seat right there for sure. But what do I know? Not a whole lot. Moondrop Speedy said, are y'all concerned that Lance Hurd is in a knee brace? That's a great question, Rustin. You go ahead, and then I'll give my 2 cents.
This time of season, when you start going out to practice for real, everybody comes out hair on fire. People are flying around, stuff happens, little nicks and dings and injuries take place, and everybody just kind of expects it. It's just part of it. And they'll do a lot of precautionary stuff. They'll put people in walking boots, they'll throw on knee braces, they'll put people in arm slings to protect shoulders. um, you know all that stuff's typically just precautionary. If he's still in a knee brace and being held out of things in 2 weeks, okay, yeah, now we got a concern. But right now it's probably just precautionary and nothing.
Yeah, I would say the same thing. The only thing that makes me think it's not that big of a deal is that it hasn't been a topic of interest in press conferences so far.
Yeah.
Typically, if it's like something serious, then every single press conference, the media is asking for an update, an injury update.
Yeah.
And so, since they aren't asking for that right now, that leads me to believe, and I could be wrong, but that leads me to believe that they know it's not serious. So, my guess is probably what happened was during practice, they're because all the media guys know the coaching staff. And so, like, there's that famous picture of Heupel and Austin Price. I think they were sitting at Gus's Good Times Deli eating a sandwich together, like,
Yeah.
So my guess is what has happened is that one of the media guys has asked a coach on the sideline, like, "Hey, what's up with Lance? Is he all right?" And they're like, "Yeah, he's all right," something like that. And that's why they just hadn't really brought it up in press conferences. Because, like I said, if it was serious, they'd be bringing it up after every practice, like, "How's Lance progressing?" That kind of thing. But they haven't done that, so that would be the only reason why I'm not concerned. That's a really good question, though. Very, very good question. Moondrop Speed also said Golish just has the gift of gab. Just love him as a head coach, but he has missed at Tennessee. Totally agree. Man, he had the line of the summer so far. People said because they have to play Alabama and somebody else. I can't remember who the other team was. I think it's another SEC team. But somebody asked him. They said, "What have you told your team, knowing that those two teams are on your schedule?" And he said, "I told them that they have to play South Florida this year." I was like, "That's what I'm talking about." They're like, what are you told your team knowing that you have to play these teams this year? And he said, "I told them that they have to play South Florida this year." I love it. That was fantastic. Tony said Rodney Gardner's the only coach we have that doesn't coach speak. The rest are kind of boring to listen to. I agree with that. Every once in a while, you can get Rodney fired up. It's pretty fun to hear him in a press conference, but I agree totally. There's always one one line you get from Rodney every single press conference, and he's like, he goes, "I tell the guys every day, there's two things I won't lie to you, the Bible and the ball." He's like, and he tells everybody, he says that all the time. He's like, "The Bible ain't gonna lie, God ain't gonna lie to you, and the ball's not gonna lie. It's gonna tell you exactly what's gonna film. No, it's film. That's what it is. The film don't lie, and the Bible don't lie. That's those two things he says. I love it every time." Elijah, ooh, fun question.
Tell you
Go
what,
ahead.
if South Florida can survive the first half of their schedule, they could have a really good season. The back half of their schedule is crazy weak, but the front half of their schedule is murderer's row. Yeah, Golish, he gets to open up with a cupcake. He gets to beat Bethune-Cookman to start the season. But then 5 weeks in a row, he's got Alabama, Southern Miss, Miami, Tulane, and Memphis.
That ain't easy at a mid-major school.
And Alabama, Southern Miss, and Alabama, Southern Miss, and Tulane are on the road. So he's got a 4-week stretch where they play at Alabama, at Southern Miss, Miami at home, and then at Tulane. That's a rough 4-week stretch right there.
Absolutely. Elijah, I like your question. I'm going to come back to it. We're going to end our show with that. That's a good one. Evan said Jalen. So Nico has Jalen Hurts mentality, but he can throw. It sounds like it, right? It sounds like it. Sam said Bennett Warren said that he was left-handed and would play right tackle. That dude is going to be good, man. Like I'm so excited to see him 2 years from now. What he's able to do 2 years from now, I'm excited about that.
But think about this: he's 6'7", 342. Jeremiah Hurd is 6'8", 325. Jeremiah Hurd has probably the best feet of any of them. So that screams left tackle. If 2 years from now we've got bookend tackles that are 6'8" and 6'7" and both around 340 pounds, those are pretty good edges to your offensive line right there.
Yeah, for sure. Sam said there's videos of Jeremiah's Hurd breaking backboards. And if you're wondering, is there any relation between Jeremiah Hurd and Lance Hurd? They're cousins. I'm pretty sure they're cousins, actually. I think that was one of the things that appealed to Lance is he could play with his cousin.
Oh yeah, that's right.
So that's cool. I would love to see those videos. Actually, I gotta go look that up. Caleb Lawn Care, welcome, buddy. He said, "Hi, Vol Bros. Hey, if you need lawn care needs, Caleb's your dude." Caleb, put in the comments where you're from, man, so people there you can contact you and use you as their lawn guy. Look at us, men of the people here. We'll promote you. He said, I think Joey's going to have a great season his second year as offense coordinator. Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. It was the same way with Golish when he was offensive coordinator. Yes, Joey is our offensive coordinator. Yes, Alex Golish was our offensive coordinator. That would be Josh Heupel, actually. Heupel's calling the plays. He did when Golish was here too. So,
and there's only one of them that's going to be on that headset with the microphone in the quarterback's ear, and I can guarantee it ain't going to be Joey Halsley.
Exactly. Tony said, I've seen Coach Garner tell someone, why don't you play like you look? Love it. That's good. Elijah said our O-line is going to be massive in a few years. If they keep recruiting the way they are right now, for sure. No doubt about it. Caleb's from Bristol. That's cool. Rustin went to school in Bristol. So if you're in the Bristol area, hey, man, we got your lawn guy right here. Contact Caleb Lawn Care. That's what I'm talking about. Very, very cool. Very, very cool. Elijah said this is Heupel's offense no matter who is our OC. That's why I wasn't worried when Golish left. Yeah, Elijah's exactly right. He just hit the nail on the head. There's one guy running the show in the offense, and it's Josh Heupel for sure. So anything in the highlights, Rustin, and then I'm going to go back to I think it was Elijah's question. Yeah. Anything in the highlights from practice so far that impressed you? I'll mention the throw to Chris Brazel. That was beautiful. And the reason I say that was because when you go back and you watch that play, and it was all over Twitter. What was it? Wednesday? What is it? Tuesday? Today's Thursday. I keep missing the days. People's names and the days. I'm struggling. So today's Thursday. So last night, Wednesday night, there was video going all over Twitter about that throw. Well, the reason the throw was so good was because it was to the outside of the receiver, away from the defender. So the defender had no play on the ball. The only person who had a play on it was Chris Brazel. He made a great catch, and it was a touchdown pass. That's why it was beautiful, because it was away from the defender. Other than that, have you seen anything that was like, hey, you know, jumped out at you from the very limited highlights that have been posted?
Not really.
Yeah, me either.
I tend to watch routes. I tend to see if what they're working on, if they're gonna add any wrinkles. I've seen Brew McCoy running a lot of really good routes. That was good to see. And running some routes that we haven't really seen him run before. So I think they're going to open up the playbook even more. really try to find creative ways to get him the ball. I noticed the other day they were working on a 10-yard dig route with him. We didn't really see him run that previously, where he's getting 10 yards and getting straight across the field as fast as we can. Where that would be really advantageous is when he lines up next to Squirrel. Squirrel runs the fly route and runs the safety off, and then Brew comes underneath him at 10. Now the safety's got to make a choice. He's either got to sit on Brew and watch Squirrel run right by him, or he's got to, get out and cover Squirrel, and Brew's wide open. So I think they're really looking at their people and going, okay, how can we create mismatches? How can we level receivers to where, Nico has a fairly easy read, but he's got good options within that read. So I think they're being really strategic about how they line up, really strategic about what they're running with who. And I think they're already repping that in practice, trying to start drilling home. When these two guys line up together, these are the three things that we're going to attack. So I think that's interesting. But outside of that, I mean, you really can't see a whole lot.
Totally agree. I think Sam made a good point down here. He said, only things I can see from the videos is the physical depth of the team, the accuracy of passers, and the footwork of the secondary. Yeah, I mean, they strategically only allow video recording at certain times of the practice. And so that's one thing, like those, when they're going live like they did in that, the Chris Brazel highlight, that was not a open portion of practice. So that means that they saw that play and the coaching staff was like, hey, let the media have that one. And that's how that leaked out. So that was a closed portion of practice. They're probably telling their Twitter account, okay, y'all can post that one. Also interesting that Chris Brazel touchdown pass came from Nico. That means that Brazel was running with the ones. That's interesting. Because you would think that it might be going into fall camp, Brew McCoy, Squirrel White, and Dante Thornton. But that means that Chris Brazel's in one of those outside spots, probably, unless he was, subbing in for Squirrel White or something. Is it weird seeing Brew McCoy in a number 5 jersey?
I think Dante's going to be a utility guy. He can line up in the slot. He can line up at the X. He can line up at the Z. I think if they did a true depth chart at receiver, it would be Brew at the X, Squirrel at the slot, Brazel at the Z, and then Thornton as the number 2 between all three of them. I think that's the kind of rotation we're going to see.
Okay, so that leads me to another question. Y'all let us know in the comments, yes or no. Is Dante Thornton Jr. listed as or in the opening depth chart at least one spot? No, that's too easy.
I would love
2 spots. Is he listed as or?
I would love to see Josh Heupel release that opening depth chart and have him as an or at all 3 of them.
All 3.
That would be awesome.
I thought about saying that actually,
because it won't change for a month and a half. So for 6 weeks straight, it would have him listed as or at 3 different positions.
Yep, that's exactly right. That is exactly right. Let's see. Sam said, Rustin, if Jeremiah's Hurd develops, do you think David Sanders will be a left guard?
No, they're recruiting him as a left tackle. He's going to be a left tackle, but that doesn't mean we can't have 3 tackles. I mean, how many times in the last 10 years have we been like, why do we not have any line depth? You really need 3 guards and 3 tackles that you can constantly rely on.
Absolutely. It would be great to really have 10 starting offensive linemen, if we're being honest. I'm
not sure in the NIL world that's ever going to be possible, but
right.
If you have 7 or 8, I think you're in good shape.
Because I mean, it's an injury prone position. Because how could it not be? You've got 350-pound dudes pushing you one direction, and you're trying to use your legs to prevent them from going that way. And then you get run in the back of your knees by running backs and other offensive linemen getting pushed into you. I mean, it's too easy to get injured there. Um, Wes, yes, he said, "Did you see Golish's comments about having to play Alabama?" Yes, and they were fantastic. His response was, "Yeah, Alabama has to play South Florida this year." I love it. That's great. Caleb said Rustin go to Tennessee High, and Rustin, I think, answered him. Yep, played and coached at King University. From Chattanooga, went to college and up in Bristol. Let's see. Moondrops Beauty said, "I know the DBs are much younger, but they are so much more athletic." Ding, 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 ding. Totally agree. Just the way they flip their hips to change direction is impressive. They look so fluid. Yeah, you're exactly right. I mean, that's the difference. All right. So my question is he listed as or? Wes, Herb, and Elijah all said yes. I agree. Yeah, that or fella is really all over the depth chart all the time. Tennessee's really good at that. Sam said, Rustin, how do you see them using two tight ends?
I think it's going to go back to what they've done in the past when they had guys like Princeton Fant. What's going to be interesting is I mean, and I'm fascinated to see how they do it. I mean, they've got a freak in Ethan Davis, but right now, Holden Stays and Miles Kinselman are probably both better. So I don't know what they're going to do with Ethan Davis. I don't know if they can placate him for one more year until Kitzelman's gone and then let him be the star next year. But, I think they're going to do a lot of Kitzelman as a true inline tight end and Holden Stace as an H-back. When they go four wide, Stace can go out in the slot, motion across like they did with Princeton Fant, do some creative things with him to try to create mismatches because he's a freak athlete. But when you talk to people around the program, they're all very high on Miles Kitzelman, the transfer from Bama, and I don't hear a whole lot about Ethan Davis. I hear Holden Stays and Miles Kitzelman.
Yeah, that's actually one position that Heupel did mention by name in his opening presser. He said that tight end was they actually had. These are his words. He said we have more depth at that position than we've had since I've been here. Yeah, and he's right. I mean, like they do for sure. Elijah said things were starting to click for him before he got injured. Can only imagine he's gotten more comfortable in the offense, so he's going to be really good. Are you talking about Brew McCoy? Who's he talking about? Probably. Dante. He's talking about Dante. Okay. I bet he's talking about Dante Thornton.
Yeah.
Because he's right. If he's talking about Dante, I mean that Missouri game, dude, that was his best game of the season, and then he unfortunately got hurt in that game, but that was easily his best game of the season. Yeah, he's talking about Dante.
At tight end, they've also got Charlie Browder, who would start for a lot of schools. Then they got the true freshman Cole Harrison, who was, one of the top prospects in the country coming in. They got a ton of depth at tight end. And, I've said it on here before. There's another one that's going to be available at the end of this year that I know the coaches will want. And I think it's a good situation for him as well.
Good transfer situation.
Yep. So they're just going to keep getting richer and richer at that position.
Wes said, how great would it be to see South Florida beat Alabama? Oh, man, that'd be awesome. Can you imagine the meltdown in Tuscaloosa if that were to happen? Man, oh, man, that would be must-see TV. Tony, great point, buddy. Tony said, about time I got their numbers down. Several of them changed numbers. Yeah. Okay, there were a bunch of people who changed numbers this year, like a bunch of people. Normally there's like one or two, maybe three. No, there were a bunch this year that changed numbers. Let's see. Caleb said, no, I think DT is going to be a fullback. I'm not sure who DT is. I'm not sure. So let us know, Caleb. Who are you talking about? Elijah said, isn't Ethan coming off a shoulder injury? Yes, he is. Yep, for sure. And Elijah said, I mean, South Florida almost beat Alabama last year.
What I can't wait to
for
see,
one half, they did. Yeah.
What I can't wait to see, Nick Saban has an office in Alabama Stadium. That's not going to end well. Like at some point, that's going to be a problem. I can't wait till the day comes when they get beat by somebody they shouldn't, and him being in the building is pointed at as a distraction. Like that's going to happen at some point.
Evan said South Florida doesn't have a chance. I mean, that's probably fair.
They don't.
Probably fair. Let's see here. I want to go back to Elijah's question because this is a great question. It's prediction time. He said, how many rushing yards and touchdowns do you think Nico, so not the whole offense, we're just talking about Nico. How many rushing yards and touchdowns does Nico get against UTC? Okay, so I'm gonna amend the question. How many rushing yards and as far as touchdowns, I'm gonna say rushing and passing. So I'll give my prediction first, and then you give yours. The rushing yards, in my opinion, is more difficult than the touchdowns part. Here's why. It's the first game of the season. Like you would think they'd tell him, hey man, save it. Don't take off running a whole lot in this one because we need you to do that later on in the year. So save it. And if you do take off running and somebody comes up near you, get down. Like, don't take hits. There's no point in this game. That's what you would think they'd tell him. And you know what? That's probably is what they're going to tell him. But he's a competitor and he's going to be in between the white lines and he's going to be like, all right, let's go do this thing. And so it's I mean, my goodness, you would think his first game ever against Iowa, he wouldn't have run as much as he did in that one. But he really did the majority of his work on the ground. So I'm going to say he goes for 70 rushing yards because I think he'll probably bust along, run, it'll be a scramble drill kind of thing, and he'll see a gap in a hole somewhere and he'll take off and he'll get probably 30, 40 yards on one rush, something like that. 70 is still a lot though. I'm going to say 60 rushing yards. And here's my hope. I hope Nico only plays 2.5 quarters. One thing Heupel has proven over the 3 years he's been there, the starting quarterback starts the second half. That is a thing that he does. I would be curious if anybody knows the answer to this. Has there been a game, barring no injury, because the one answer would be Joe Milton got subbed out for Hendon Hooker, but Joe Milton got hurt, which is why Hendon Hooker came in. Has there been a game since Heupel started coaching where the starting quarterback did not start the second half and it wasn't because of injury? I guarantee you the starting quarterback started every second half because that's just what he does. And so Nico hopefully plays 2.5 quarters, 60 rushing yards, 4 touchdowns in the air. Well, not in the air. Probably 1 or 2 rushing, 1 or 2 passing. So 60 and 4. That's what I'm saying. What do you think?
No clue. And I haven't taken a look at UTC. I have no idea what their depth chart is. I don't know who they went out and got in the portal. Last year's starting quarterback was a kid that transferred from UCLA. I don't know if he's back. I don't follow him that closely. If they went out and got 20 guys in the portal who were all Power 5 kids, they're transferring down, who knows? They might be okay. But until I have a chance to look at that, there's no way I can possibly predict that.
Let's see here. Caleb said he was talking about Dante Thornton being a fullback. No, he'll be a receiver. He'll be at receiver. Bill said, "Welcome, Bill. Good to have you, buddy. Hey, I like Bill's profile photo. It's horns down. That's what I'm talking about. Welcome to the SEC, Texas." He said, "We're beating Bama. Bank that. I hope so. Russ and I both picked him too." Evan said, "I may be naive, but I don't think the Saban offense will be a problem." Yeah, it won't. You're right.
You all may not have been on the night that I talked about.
He
Bama,
said office.
Yes,
I read it as offense, like on the field.
He's talking about Saban having an office in the building.
Oh yeah, that's 100% going to be a problem.
Evan, you may not have been listening the night I talked about this, but I got to spend an hour talking to a current Alabama assistant who came to Bama with the Washington staff. He had been with them at Fresno and Washington before here, and he said it is very weird. He said that it's awkward, that they don't know when Saban's going to show up, that he just arbitrarily shows up from time to time, and he's trying to keep a distance, but at the same time it's weird because he doesn't talk to them. So like he'll walk right past their door and they're like, "Whoa, Coach Saban's here today," but he doesn't say anything. And he said it is extremely awkward, that no one's comfortable with it, and that he hopes it gets better, but he doesn't see it getting better. So I can tell you it's already weird.
Caleb said he predicts 97 rushing yards, 375 passing yards, and 6 touchdowns against UTC. Dude, that would be awesome. Welcome to Division I college football, Nico. That would be awesome, man. I would love that.
Let's hold off on that till Oklahoma.
Hey, that'd be even better. That would be talk about putting everybody on alert. That would do it. Everybody would take notice of that. That would be awesome. I vote for that, Caleb. I want that to happen. Mississippi Vol said, and just spitballing here, but I'm going to say 57 rushing yards, 2 touchdowns. That's probably pretty accurate. Because that's probably really accurate. Sam said Nico gets 75 yards rushing, 300 yards passing. That'd be sweet. Sign me up. I'd love that. Caleb, oh, you're the man, dude. He said UT Martin in 2022, Joe played in the second quarter. So that was the only other time that there has been under Josh Heupel, that a starting quarterback did not start the second half, not due to injury. That's a good one right there. Evan said, if we do well, people say it's because Saban's still involved. If we don't live up to the hype, they'll say Saban's shadow is too much pressure. Yeah, you're exactly right. That's exactly what's going to happen. I hate that, because Kalen DeBoer's in a no-win situation. So, you're exactly right, Evan. I totally agree. This has been a lot of fun. We've had a lot of great comments and stuff. This has been a blast. We have a surprise for everybody. So this Sunday night, you're going to want to tune in 9:00 Eastern, because Sandoval is going to be joining us this Sunday night. I'm very excited about that. He is going to give us the backstory of the origin story of Sandoval. Like what happened that made him want to do that. What happened, how the tradition of handing out candy canes during the Vol Walk got started. It's going to be a lot of fun. Like, I'm very, very excited about having him on here. So make sure you tune in Sunday night. Some of the other questions that came through. Sam said Alabama will have an issue if Kalen DeBoer loses a game. Fans will say it would not have happened to Saban. You're exactly right. I really feel sorry for the guy, because he's in a no-win situation. Herb said, hypothetically speaking, who could give Georgia trouble this year? Ooh, great question. So Georgia has a 7-game stretch in their schedule that is just brutal. They play Alabama. Actually, they have to go to Alabama and to Texas within, I think, 3 weeks of each other. They have to play Ole Miss. They have to play Tennessee. I mean, they have to play LSU. They've got several games that could be trouble.
Yeah,
Bill said,
I'll go with at Texas, at Ole Miss, and Tennessee. Any of those three could trip them up just because of how they fall in the schedule. I think they're good with Alabama just because of how early in the season it is. That Georgia team is much more veteran. They're not changing anything. Everything's going to be the same for them. It's still, it's just game 4. Alabama's still going to be figuring out new systems, new philosophy. There'll still be some hiccups for them. So I expect Georgia to handle them September 28th. But, after that, a 4-week stretch that includes at Texas, at Ole Miss, and Tennessee at home. I mean, just for Tennessee's benefit, the fact that Georgia has to go play Ole Miss's fast-paced offense one Saturday, and then the very next Saturday have to do it again, just from a sheer physical perspective, that's advantage Tennessee. Georgia,
and especially
Georgia's
that
got
late
to
in the
play a
season,
lot of snaps.
especially that late in the season too. I mean, you're
Yeah.
already tired. Your body's
People are
physically
banged
tired.
up.
Bill said Sandoval, I'll be watching. Hey, we appreciate that very much. Herb said Sandoval is awesome. I follow him on Facebook. Absolutely. I'm so excited. If you're just joining us, we've got 204 people watching right now, 173 on X and 31 on YouTube. If you're just joining us this Sunday night at 9:00, Sandoval is going to join us. And so we're super excited to have him on the show. We're super excited to learn the origin story of Sandoval and what gave him the idea to do it. Learn all about all his pregame traditions that he does. It's super awesome. And now he gives away tons of stuff on Twitter now. I'm super excited to talk to him. It's going to be so much fun. Evan said there's a 3 to 4 game stretch at the end of the season where Georgia could slip up. Yep, and that's what Rustin was talking about as well. Absolutely. Elijah said I'd be happy if we can keep the Georgia game to 20 points. LOL, might get ugly. I mean, yeah, for sure. He said I hate to say it though, but you're right. I mean, that's just reality. I totally agree. Well, this has been a lot of fun. There have been great comments. Y'all make this so much fun. I mean, that's what makes this so great. Getting to interact with all of you. We hope you join us Sunday night. We hope you join us for Sandoval. This is going to be a lot of fun. Looking forward to showcasing him and what because he's part of All Nation now. Like he's one of the. Listen, there are people who seek him out at home games just so their kids can get their photo with him. It's so cool, man. So I'm really excited to have him on here. It'll be a blast. We hope you'll join us Sunday night so you can get to hear from him too. But we thank everybody for joining us. Huge time in the life of Tennessee Volunteers. The anticipation of the season, you can just feel it building, man. You can feel it building. And we're all looking forward to just a few Saturdays. We only have 4 Saturdays from tomorrow. No, today's Thursday. I thought it was Friday. 4 Saturdays from 2 days from now. Tennessee takes a field, man. It's going to be exciting. Very, very exciting. We hope all of you have a wonderful evening. We hope you join us Sunday night. And go Vols, baby. Go Vols. Elijah said, good night, bros. Hey, we appreciate you, man. So hope everybody has a great evening. Go Vols, y'all. I hit the wrong thing. See, it's live. So now I'm going to hit the right thing. I'm going to hit our outro instead of the intro thing.